Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 883, August the 31st, 2019, Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good Saturday morning to you. Yes, we have a lot to talk about this morning. We don't have a lot of time, so let's get to it. Okay, so the unwitting idiot James Clapper was on CNN, the Commie News Network, and he's telling CNN that James Comey, the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, was not a leaker. No, he was not a leaker, but rather a whistleblower. That's right, Comey was not a leaker, but a whistleblower. He said, quote, Jim did what he thought was the right thing for the country. Yeah, he violated policies and standard protocols of the FBI, but I don't think there's a rule book for this extraordinary situation involving potential, and I emphasize potential, criminality of a president. Oh my God! Oh my God! How do you even untangle that? You know, the more that we learn and the more that we see these crazy SOBs going on CNN and MSNBC and all these other places, and the more that you hear these guys talk, I gotta tell you, my friends, whew, it's a little terrifying. These people were at the very top of these government bureaucracies, which have this incredible power. Clapper was the DNI. Comey was the FBI director. Brennan was head of the CIA. Not a leaker, rather he was a whistleblower. No. When you're the FBI director, you cannot be acting in an official capacity as a whistleblower. Someone outside the FBI or someone within the FBI, generally a whistleblower is someone who's revealing corruption within a government organization, or could be even a private corporation. That's not what Comey was doing. And he, in fact, is a leaker. Horowitz's report says he was leaking. Now, whether he was leaking classified information or non-classified information, it doesn't have to be classified information to be very damaging. There's plenty of information that's not classified that can be very damaging, but it's not the role of the FBI director to do so. This is all cover his ass. Because Clapper's ass is in the same trap with Comey. He doesn't have any choice but to go out and try to cover Comey's lily-white ass. Because his is in the same trap. This is complete bullshit is what this is. Comey not a leaker, a whistleblower. What the hell was he blowing a whistle on? What was he blowing the whistle on? He's the FBI director. What, he's blowing the whistle on Trump having some dealings with Russia, or some collusion with Russia, or working with Russia? Well, in that case, as FBI director, he shouldn't be out doing whistleblowing. He should be doing investigating. And had he done some investigating into the information that he was using to come to this conclusion, he would have determined that it was bullshit. Bullshit. But he knew it was bullshit. And the whole idea was not to blow any whistles, was not to do an investigation to find out if these things that were being thrown about were true. It had one purpose in mind, and that was to take out Trump. Take him out. Jim did what he thought was right for the country? That's not the role of the FBI director, to do what's best for the country. That's not what his role is. He's not elected to anything. His job is to investigate potential crime. Who the hell does this guy think he is? Who does Clapper think Comey is? I mean, Comey has decided that he is God. And he obviously convinced that idiot, the unwitting fool Clapper, probably convinced him he was God. Because apparently Clapper fell in line. These guys have a lot of problems. This is not going to fly. There's no way, I mean, Attorney General Barr, think what you want, there's no way he's going to look at this type of stuff. This is exactly what it's all about. It's all about these people thinking that they knew better than everybody else. Oh, the people are going to vote for Trump. We can't have that. They're too stupid to vote for the right person. That would be the rotten Reverend Clinton, who they exonerated through other illegal activities. No. The people are too stupid to vote correctly, so we have to kind of fix this. That's what it was. It was a fix. Fix things. Because they know better than all of us. People are totally on a power trip. And Comey is a major God complex, I'm telling you. Cardinal Comey. I don't think there's a rule book for this extraordinary situation involving potential, and I emphasize potential, criminality of a president. Yes, there is a rule book, Jim. It's called the law. There are professional protocols for how you conduct investigations, and you follow those protocols and those guidelines. You do your investigation, you come to your conclusion, and then you pass that on to the Attorney General if there is anything there, and if there's not, you fold it, toss it in the can, and move on. There are protocols for this sort of thing. Doesn't matter. The president is still a citizen, and he wasn't the president when you were doing this shit. He was a private citizen running for office. But even after he became president, then it became a coup. By the time Trump was elected, they knew that everything, that all these so-called all the so-called intelligence or information, they knew it was bullshit by then. Man, oh man. How Barr cannot be... I mean, and these guys are walking around free. Bruce Orr is still working at the DOJ. Man, oh man. The Rotten Reverend. Well, the Rotten Reverend Clinton, the demonic buzzard, is still whining about losing the election in 2016. She was speaking to a group of progressives in a speech in New York, and she says that even though she won the popular vote, she lost the 2016 election because of forces of work. She even suggests that the voting machines were rigged. She never mentions the fact that she never went to Wisconsin. She's nuts. She's nuts. Yeah, she won the popular vote because she ran up the vote in large urban areas, which is the only place that she would campaign. She certainly couldn't go into the heartland. She could boot off stage. She couldn't put 20 people. She couldn't put 20 people. She could come to where I live in southern Ohio. She couldn't put 20 people in a room. She's the most unpopular politician in probably the last 50 years. She was never electable. Suggesting the voting machines were rigged, and she spent more than double what Trump spent. She spent $1.2 billion. If you spend $1.2 billion driving buses through the urban areas, loading up the folks and taking them to vote, not to mention 2, 3, 4, 5, however many million votes that were given to her because of the cheating by the large online media companies such as Google, Facebook, and others. Look how many seats the Democrats picked up in the midterms after the election was over. By vote harvesting. They go out to the entire neighborhood in the voting district. They go to people's doors, knock on the door, asks them if they're the person that lives there, if they're the person, the registered voter. Then they essentially get their information, and then they go back to their offices and wait for the election, the day after the election. Then they check and see if the person voted. If they didn't, then they go ahead and fill out the damn form and submit it. How many million votes did Hillary get from that? You can buy votes in the popular vote. Yeah, go out and spend $1.2 billion. You can buy a hell of a lot of votes. Trump wasn't out buying votes. He was out working very, very hard, outworking Hillary. He was doing 3 to 4 campaign rallies a day. Hillary was doing fundraisers when she wasn't being passed out and being tossed into the Scooby van and lying her ass off. She's disgusting and just unbelievable. And we're likely going to, like I said, I still believe that we're likely going to see a rematch. I believe the Rotten Reverend is going to end up being the nominee. I really do. We are learning that it was a whistleblower that gave the Inspector General, Huckleberry Horowitz, the custodian, that gave Huckleberry Horowitz, the custodian, 7 of Comey's memos about his conversations with Trump. Now, that has to be somebody that was in the know. Now, that person came forward and is taking advantage of whistleblower protection, which means that person's name is not being released. There'll be a lot of these types of people, I think we'll find when we get to the end of this thing, and we'll be able to identify them because they'll be the people who would have been key people who probably should have been indicted, who were part of the core group, but somehow escape. They'll be the ones who will know who turned and provided information or what have you, maybe in exchange for getting off the hook or what have you. But anyway, we're learning that it was a whistleblower that came forward to Inspector General Horowitz and provided him with 7 of those Comey memos. So we're learning that when Comey wrote those memos, he made a copy of each one. And he took one home and he gave the other one to Rybicki, his chief of staff. And then Rybicki put that into his file in his office to make sure that these were not anywhere in Comey's office, because they suspected he may get fired or something may happen, and they didn't want that information getting out. So he made 2 copies of each of the memos. He took one home and he gave one to Rybicki. So Rybicki, when he was being questioned, eventually he had to come forward and come clean with the IG and say, well, yeah, the memos of Comey, yeah, I mean, he actually gave me copies of them. Horowitz is probably like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. He gave you copies. Oh, yeah. 7 of the 9 memos I have copies of. He gave them to me. Well, well, well. Okay, I guess it's time for the daily Biden gaffe update. It looks like, first of all, before we even get to the gaffe from today, let's deal with Biden's response to the fact that reporters now ask him about the Washington Post story, where they say, hey, did you read the Washington Post story? Where they basically lay out that entire war hero story that you talk about, pinning the medal on the guy, and he didn't want it in the whole 9 yards. The Washington Post story points out that nearly every fact that you lay out in that story is incorrect. Well, Biden says, well, I haven't read the story. But he says, I can tell you that it's ridiculous. So he hasn't read the WashPo article, but he says it's ridiculous. He also says that, well, he got the essence of the story correct. The essence of the story correct. And the essence of the story, according to Biden, is that the guy didn't want the medal pinned on him because the guy he went after was dead. But we know that it wasn't Biden who pinned the medal on him. It was Obama, and it happened 6 years after the incident. And at the time when Biden went over to Afghanistan, he was a senator. He wasn't even the vice president then. Boy, oh boy. We'll get to his latest gaffe here in a few, I think, if I wrote it down. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Joe DeGeneva, I think it was on Hannity or Lou Dobbs, one of those two. Joe DeGeneva says that, yes, John Durham must interview and likely, ultimately, will interview Obama under oath. He will interview Obama under oath. Yes, absolutely. There when you look at this thing, there's absolutely no way, and I think everyone understands this, that you can have the type of things that are going on, and not the president not know about it. He at the very least would have to be briefed on it, but it was a lot more than that, in my opinion. I think he was one of the top, tier heads of the overall plot. I think Barack Obama was a key player. He wasn't just, now I know what he's going to do if he's ever questioned under oath. He's going to do like everybody else. He's going to say, well, the FBI, the OD and I, everybody's coming to tell me, my national security advisor, give me all this information about Russians interfering. Trump's got shady people around him that have Russian ties. They're doing this investigation. I mean, I have an obligation to look into it. I authorized this investigation, but I believed all the information I was being given. I thought it was all legit. That's what Obama's defense is going to be. Do you think he's going to take the fall for Comey? You think he's going to back Clapper and Brennan? I don't think so. Barack Obama's looking out to save number one. Believe me. But yes, I agree with DeGeneva. You really cannot say you thoroughly investigated this until you talked to Obama and several other people in his cabinet, by the way. Again, this type of thing is run at the executive level, and this would entail foreign intelligence and foreign operations. That would mean the National Security Advisor. That was Susan Rice. So those two certainly are key people you absolutely will have to interview. No question about that. And obviously, of course, we know that the Right Reverend Clinton was, in my mind, the mastermind planning, organizing, directing, controlling the entire operation. She was the one who was pipelining all the, what would be generally regarded as evidence. In this case, it was all bullshit. But she was the one pipelining it all, she was providing the energy for everything that the criminals were doing. They were using her dirt that she paid for, her garbage is what they were using to conduct their illegal operations. And Obama, you bet he knew every bit of it. Every bit of it. And he's not going to fall on the sword for these people. Certainly not going to happen. And again, I think for a lot of these people, they think that their get out of jail free card is the fact that they believe they can implicate Obama. And Brennan and Comey and Clapper, they can start to say, okay, well, you're going to indict me, you got to indict the president, former President Obama, because he knew everything. Everything we did was authorized by the president. That's what they're all going to say. And that they think that Barr will look at that and go, oh boy, we can't be indicting former presidents, so probably going to have to cut these guys loose and go after some mid-level players. We'll get Strzok, we'll get some other people down there below them or something. It's not going to work. This entire thing's going to blow up in their face. It's going to blow up in their face. Even if Barr and Durham don't do their job. There's just too many people following the story. The truth is going to come out. Whether or not people are actually held accountable will be up to Barr and Durham. But stopping the truth, it ain't going to happen. The truth is coming out. We learn more and more and more every day. Ultimately, Trump is going to make sure that the truth comes out. One way or another. He can't control who gets prosecuted, but he can damn sure make sure that the truth does come out. And I believe he will. Okay, now moving on to the latest Joe Biden gaffe of the day. Here we have Biden making a statement where he says, quote, illegal immigrants become Americans before a lot of Americans become Americans. I'm serious. Whenever you have to say I'm serious about something after you've just said it, you know it's stupid. Let's try that one more time. This I'll go slow. Try to see if you can even comprehend this. I had to run it through my mind like 18 times before I finally realized, well, the reason I can't comprehend this is because it makes no sense. I tried to make sense of it. You can't. Try it. Let me give it to you again. Try to make sense of this. Illegal immigrants become Americans before a lot of Americans become Americans. One more time. Illegal immigrants become Americans before a lot of Americans become Americans. This guy's out of his mind. Oh my God. Get ready for the Rotten Reverend. As bad as she is, she's not even this bad. This guy's got no game, brother. And I said it before he officially launched. I said he ain't gonna make it. I'm tired of being right. Well, how about Commie Bernie speaking in South Carolina? And he's saying to the folks there in South Carolina that he would consider using a meat tax to reduce animal agriculture in the U.S. to help fight climate change. So he wants to get rid of beef and cattle farming and agriculture to stop a hoax. He wants me to give up steak, burgers, pork, lint in my mouth, all sorts of things. Wants us to give up all sorts of good things to fight climate change, which is a gigantic hoax. And that was even proved in a court hearing this past week. But I didn't need a court hearing to know it. So the question we have to ask now is, do you think that Buttigieg will support a meat tax? How about Kamala, legs in the air Harris? Do you think she'll support a meat tax? I mean, after all, we know that they both love meat. Now, I just want to go through this frame up again in a more complete fashion. We've known for a long time that the Trump briefing, January 6, 2017 Trump briefing, was a setup. But since we've had the Horowitz report come out, some of the gaps or details have been filled in. Some of the things we knew that were just confirmed, and there was a couple of new details that we got that leave no doubt that that was in setup. And so if you're new to my channel, or even if you've been around the channel for a while, I just want to go through this again because now we have really all the pieces of this particular part of the plot. There was many, remember, this criminal conspiracy involved many smaller little conspiratorial plots. It was many plots being run at the same time that were part of an overall larger conspiracy. So, first of all, to understand the context of why all this is happening and why it happened the way it did, remember what we're talking about here. They came up with the dossier material, the Steele material, to try to stop Trump. Now, they knew that this information was bullshit. So they had to come up with another strategy, and the strategy was a media strategy to beat Trump down in the media with this false information disguised as evidence by a so-called credible source, who we of course know was not a credible source. So this was a media strategy to take down Trump, because they did not have the actual evidence that they could use in an investigation where you could actually prove that he had done anything wrong, or that there was even any Russian collusion at all amongst anyone. So the original plan prior to Trump winning the election was to destroy him with the media reports of the garbage, the Steele material that they knew would not pass the sniff test in a criminal court. So they had to go with a media strategy. But the problem they had is, despite the fact that they had everybody pushing this off to all the media people in Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, everywhere that they could. You had Glenn Simpson. You had Christopher Steele himself. You had the rotten Reverend Clinton and her people. You had FBI, intelligence people leaking every bit of this. The media had all this Steele stuff. Probably by the end of July, end of August, they had all the Steele material. They just simply couldn't do anything with it because they could not verify it. And therefore they couldn't run it, because if they did, they would be sued. Big time. And they knew it. So they panicked. The deep state panicked. Comey, whole 9 yards, they all panicked because they realized that the media simply couldn't run with the garbage. So they had to find some other way. But by the time they figure all this out, the election's over and Trump wins. Now they've got a lot of problems because they realize that they did a lot of things that were illegal. And now they have to cover all that up, but they also have to get rid of Trump. And so they've still got the steal stuff out here. So now they come up with this policy, this insurance policy. They're going to try the insurance thing. And what this means is they have to destroy Trump with the garbage. It won't pass a sniff test in a criminal court, but that's okay because the process by removing a president through impeachment is a political process, not a legal process per se. So in order to begin the process and do as much damage as they can to Trump, they decide that they somehow have to find a way to get this dossier information, the Steele garbage, which is not Christopher Steele at all, but that's another issue. But they realize they have to get this stuff out. And the media can't touch it because they know it can't be verified, so it's never going anywhere. But they've got it, and they've got to use it because it's all they've got. They don't have any real evidence. This is all they have. So they need to get a special counsel appointed. So what do? They come up with this entire plot. So now that you have the context in mind, let's move forward. It's approaching January the 6th. The idea that they come up with is that the way that they're going to get the Steele information so the media can report about it and talk about it, the way they're going to do it is they're going to have to provide a news hook and make sure that the media has a good reason to release the Steele information. And they're going to do that by providing the media with a news hook. And the news hook is going to be that the president was briefed on the stuff in the Steele dossier. He was briefed on the stuff. The briefing occurred. Therefore, it's now a news story. Trump was briefed on it. And once it's become a news story and the media can report on it, the next thing they do is release the dossier. And then that begins the ball rolling. So now let's go through these specific things that we've learned with some things that we've known. So January 6th of 2017, Comey, Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, the unwitting idiot Clapper, along with Mike Rogers, meet with Trump at Trump Tower. That's January the 6th of 2017. And they meet to brief Trump on the Russian election meddling issue. And also, after they're done briefing them, Comey is going to stay behind and he is going to brief Trump on the PP-Gate story. And this is really the first part of this plot, which has several different parts, 3 main parts. So now Comey and the coup plotters are hoping that when Comey briefs Trump on this, that he'll say something or make some statement that they can use against him in their counterintelligence operation where they're targeting him. And remember, the very first thing that Comey says, and he admits this in his own book, is that as soon as he sat down with Trump, the first thing he said to him is, "Mr. President, you're not under investigation." All the while, the very reason that Comey was there was as a part of this counterintelligence operation into Trump. It was really more than that. It wasn't even a counterintelligence operation into Trump. It was a coup effort against Trump. So they had come up with the plan previously. And the plan had been for Comey to brief Trump, and then immediately after he leaves the briefing, Comey would write down everything he could remember about what Trump said. Comey would also discuss with the other coup plotters Trump's reactions, his reactions, and he would be discussing this with, of course, the heads of the Crossfire Hurricane team. And this would be happening immediately while it was still fresh in all their minds. Comey, after leaving the briefing with Trump, had a secure laptop waiting for him in his FBI vehicle. He started typing immediately as soon as he got into the vehicle. He then went straight to an FBI field office in New York, where he then had pre-set up a video teleconference room, where he had a room with a teleconference video system set up, and there he had a video teleconference with the Crossfire Hurricane heads, the other coup plotters. And they go through all this information. Of course, nothing really came out of it. We don't know exactly what Trump said, but I'm sure we can imagine what he said when Comey told him about the PP-Gate story. Trump probably said, that's bullshit. It's obviously a political dirty trick or something, or you're trying to blackmail me, or I don't know what it is, but there ain't no tape because it didn't happen. And that's probably why nothing really came out of it. Otherwise, we would know about it. There would be information, but there was nothing. So what happens 3 days later? 3 days later. Well, 3 days later, Jake Tapper at the Commie News Network does a story that the FBI briefed Trump about Russian efforts to compromise Trump, and that the information is based on the former British intelligence agent whose past work with the United States makes him a credible source. Now, where did CNN learn about this briefing that Comey gave to Trump at Trump Tower on January 6th? Well, we don't know 100% for sure, but it's pretty likely, I would say 90% or better, that it was that unwitting idiot James Clapper. Clapper is likely the guy who told Tapper. Clapper told Tapper. That was the news hook. And now, once the news hook was in place, they were free to talk about it, because now Tapper had just reported on it. There was only 4 people who knew that meeting, 5 people who knew that meeting happened, really, and what went down in that meeting, and that was Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rogers, and Trump. They're the only ones who knew what went down in that meeting. And one of them, and we believe it was Clapper, leaked it to Tapper on CNN, the Commie News Network, and that provided the news hook. And now that the news hook was there, they could go ahead and report on the story that they had not been able to report on for the past 5 months. Because now they had cover. And what happens the next day after Tapper on the Commie News Network drops the story about drops the news hook story about Trump being briefed by Comey about the salacious information and the dossier and all that, and Russian meddling or what have you? Well, what happens? BuzzFeed publishes the entire dossier. And where did they get it? They got it from David Kramer. John McCain, Senator Magoo, got it from Senator Magoo's right-hand man, his errand boy. And there you have it. That's what happened. It was a plot. It was a plot, which is one of many plots. Plots just like this. The plots on Papadopoulos, on Caputo, on Stone, on Flynn, on Trump Jr., all these things. These were all many plots within a larger conspiratorial plot, all with the same purpose: to destroy the president. First, to keep him from being elected, then when that didn't work, to destroy him and get him impeached. And so you can see what a bunch of devious, criminal, low down and dirty people these are. These are hardcore criminals. I mean, this is bad. This is real bad. And these are hardcore criminals. They absolutely must be put in jail. They absolutely must go to jail. You cannot have this kind of crap going on. We can go and we can look at the Papadopoulos setup. We can walk through the Flynn setup. We can walk through the Caputo setup. We can walk through the Trump Tower with Trump Jr. setup. We can walk through every one of these, and you'll find the exact same thing. There was a premeditated plan, a plot to frame Trump or someone around him. And these are the very heads of the most powerful agencies in the world doing this. Attorney General Barr, you have no choice. There is no choice. You have an obligation to indict these criminals. These are dangerous, dangerous people. And I mean dangerous. They're still at large. They are a danger to the president. They are a danger to the country. These people need to be taken off the street. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.